Yeah. Alex Bregman and Juan Soto both hit home runs and then took their bat to first base. But let's not forget who was the first man, he's actually a god, to do this.
Fastball right down the middle. Watched it leave the park. He knew it.
Like he'd done it 500 times before.
What's going on, guys? It's Fuzzy. Welcome back to yet another Major League Baseball video. I am so happy to be back in my setup. And do you smell that? I smell like Game 7. This series has been amazing so far. Steven Strasburg has shown the world that when he is healthy, he can be one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He can actually opt out of his contract after this season ends. So he might get just as much money as Garrett Cole. Okay? Don't disrespect Steven Strasburg. So on one hand, yes, this series has been amazing. But on the other hand, I'm not sure what the umpires are doing. They're trying to take control of the series, and I am not having that. One more guy that is not having it is Trey Turner. He called out Joe Torre. Joe Torre is one of the guys that if something has to go to a protest, Joe Torre is going to take care of that. So the Nationals, they thought about protesting the game because everyone in the sports world knows that this play with Trey Turner, it was not intentional. It was not interference. He ran a straight line. If you know anything about baseball, you would know that he was safe, okay? That should not have been called out, but you know what? We're not going to talk about that. Actually, if you guys want me to talk about umpires, go ahead and slap a like on this one, and we'll come out with that video tomorrow because, yeah, the umpires, we'll talk about it later on in this video with Victor Robles. They've been awful with balls and strikes too. So we have seen the Alex Bregman versus the Juan Soto bat flips at first base, if you can even call it a bat flip. We've seen the controversy of Trey Turner versus Joe Torre, who kind of had nothing to do with it, but I'm not too sure what's going on that end. We also have Steven Strasburg doing amazing. And then last but not least, to sum up the first 6 games of this World Series, we have game number, was it 5 or 4, featuring Drake and Josh. If you guys understand that reference and why I don't want to be demonetized, leave a like on this video because, yeah, if you don't understand what I mean by that, here we go. Boobs. So before we get into who is the better team going into Game 7, I want to give you guys 2 stats real quick that is absolutely going to blow your mind going into game number 7. So I have my script right here. As you can tell, there's a lot of stuff on it. The first that I have is that the road team has won every single game of this series. So keep that in mind. The road team has won every single game of 2019. And that means that the Astros, they're got the disadvantage because they're playing at home. Okay, so there's the first stat. The second one is that the last 9 out of 12 Game 7 World Series games have gone to the home team. So the road team has won every single game in this series, but the last 9 out of 10 Game 7s have been won by the home team. So take it for what you want. I, for one, picked the Nationals in 7, so I'm looking a little good right now. But for all of you that picked the Astros, what stat are you leaning towards? The last 9 out of 10 Game 7s in the World Series have gone to the home team, or the fact that every single game in this series has been won by the road team? Crazy stats for you. Also, one more thing is this will be the first ever Game 7 in World Series history where both pitchers on the mound have won a Cy Young Award. So you have Max Scherzer, who was coming back from neck and back spasms. He couldn't even put his clothes on, versus Zach Greinke, who has not gone past 5 innings this entire postseason. So it's going to be an interesting battle. So without further ado, I think it's time to break this game down. The Nationals facing off against the home team, the Astros. Who's going to come out on top? Let's check the stats. So like I said, Max Scherzer will be starting for the Washington Nationals after being scratched in Game 5. And a lot of people are saying that the Nationals did this on purpose. I think that you'd be crazy to think that the Nationals actually left Max Scherzer out the game so that he could pitch Game 7, because in my opinion, I think he could have done what Madison Bumgarner did and came back on 2 or 3 days rest. Max Scherzer could have done it. So if he was that injured, his name is Mad Max for a reason. Also in the playoffs, this guy has been lights out with a 3-0 record and a 2.16 ERA. So the best chance that the Nationals have to win is either with Max Scherzer or Steven Strasburg. So you don't scratch him. Advantage, Max Scherzer, because Zach Greinke, if we take a look, he is 0-2 in the playoffs with a 5.3 ERA. And again, like I said, he has not gone past 5 innings. His last start, I think it was game number 3 or 4, he was actually solid. He didn't even go 5 innings though. Again, he went 4 2/3, only gave up 1 run, but he allowed 7 hits and a couple walks. So Zach Greinke has been really shaky. Whereas Max Scherzer, every time he has stepped to the mound in this postseason, he's been pretty much unhittable. So if we're talking about starting pitchers, we are going to give the nod to the Nationals. So if you're taking count, there's starting pitching, there's offense, and then there's relief. So we're going to go to the second one real quick because 2 out of 3, you guys know, win. We're going to talk about the Astros lineup real quick now. Again, forgive me as I do have to look down a good amount because I have my script right in front of me. So the lineup should be going George Springer, Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Alex Bregman, Yuli Gurriel, Yordan Alvarez, Carlos Correa, Robinson Chirinos, and Josh Reddick. So we're going to break those guys down real quick. Our number one hitter, this guy, George Springer, is one of the most clutch World Series players ever. He already is hitting .348 with 2 home runs in this series alone, so I think that he is going to be one of the biggest X factors. Can he actually duplicate what he did a couple years ago when they faced off against the Dodgers? In my opinion, I think he can. Next up, we have Jose Altuve, who is currently on a 27 or 28 game on-base streak in the World Series, which is about to pass Pablo Sandoval for the longest streak in World Series history. And also on top of that, Jose Altuve has the 3rd highest OPS in postseason history. That's Jose Altuve, your number 2 hitter, just behind George Springer, who is one of the most clutch World Series players ever. So if we're talking about lineup, Trey Turner and Adam Eaton, yeah, they're no Springer or Altuve. We'll get to the Nationals in just a second, but we're going to round out the Astros lineup real quick. Their number 3 hitter should be Michael Brantley, who has been pretty pedestrian in my opinion. He is hitting .333, but he does not have a single home run. So look for Michael Brantley to try and get some power under his belt. Not too sure what's going to happen there. As the Nationals, they have been able to quiet his bat for the most part. Alex Bregman, he is the youngest player in World Series history to have 3 home runs in a single series. Or is he? Well, he was. And then Juan Soto had something to say about that. Again, we'll talk about him in a second. Yuli Gurriel is hitting .280 so far, but just like Michael Brantley, again, these two dudes do not have any home runs, so look for them to try and power it out of the park, see if they can, because Yuli had 31 home runs in the regular season. He was on my fantasy team. I can tell you, when Yuli gets hot, you cannot stop that man. And speaking of someone that you cannot stop when he gets hot, Yordan Alvarez. His bat has awoken with a .429 batting average, but he only has 1 home run the entire postseason. So will he contribute in game number 7 with his power? In my opinion, he is the number 1 X factor for the Astros going into game 7. And then the last 3 hitters for the Astros, we have Carlos Correa, Robinson Chirinos, and Josh Reddick. Correa, he really needs to step it up. I think he's hitting .174 through the first 6 games. That is not going to cut it. Chirinos has been pretty all right. Both him and Martin Maldonado, they are actually contributing in the batter's box, so good for them. And then the number 9 hitter, Josh Reddick. He is 2 for 12 in this series, so both him, Carlos Correa, and Yordan Alvarez, I think, are going to be the X factors in game number 7. Yes, Bregman has been clutch. I think he has 6 hits and 26 at-bats, so his batting average is not the best. You have George Springer. You have all the guys on that Astros lineup. It's so hard to stop them, but the reason why it's going to a game 7 is because Verlander, he wasn't that great, and that is exactly why we have to talk about this Nationals lineup, because they're making Justin Verlander look average. Now, if we're talking about lineup advantages, again, I did kind of sprinkle it in a few seconds ago. I do think that Trey Turner and Adam Eaton are not as good as Springer and Altuve, but Trey Turner, his speed and defense is playing a factor. He's only hitting .185, so that's not going to cut it, but maybe he can get on base via walk or something like that, steal you a bag. We get free tacos because of Trey Turner, so thank you to him. Adam Eaton, after replacing Bryce Harper, who is most likely punching the air right now because the Nationals are 1 game away from winning the World Series. Yeah, this dude Eaton has a 1059 OPS, and how many RBIs? 4 RBIs to go along with 2 home runs. Good job, Eaton. Now, this is where I have to give the advantage to the Nationals, which is crazy because the 3-4 hitters for the Astros are Michael Brantley and Alex Bregman. That is lethal. But when you have Anthony Rendon and Juan Soto back-to-back, these guys have combined for 13 RBIs. Anthony Rendon has a home run. He is breaking out. He's doing everything that he's supposed to do. Juan Soto, he snatches the record from Alex Bregman because he was the youngest to have 3 home runs in 1 World Series. And then Juan Soto, at 21 years old, is up to 3 home runs. I think he has 6 RBIs. He also became the first player in World Series history to have 2 home runs at 2 different ages, because a couple days ago he was 20, hit a home run. He's 21 years old now because it was his birthday over the weekend, and he hits a home run. Juan Soto is magical. And then, to be honest with you guys, it kind of drops off from there, at least in terms of the World Series, because Howie Kendrick, he should be the number 5 hitter, but he's only hitting .227 after winning the NLCS MVP. As Drupal Cabrera, he does have 3 RBIs, but he has 1 walk to 9 strikeouts. That's not going to cut it. Ryan Zimmerman started off the series hot with a home run off Justin Verlander, or it might have been Garrett Cole. I think it was game number 1, but he is not hitting that well since he's hitting .190 for the series. And then Kurt Suzuki, I mean, he's been clutch for the Nationals all season long, whether it's regular season or the playoffs, so look for him to have a big game. And then last but not least, Victor Robles. this guy has been screwed over by the umpires a couple different times in regards to the strikeouts, so that's why he's only hitting 143 in the series. So if we take a look at the final stats for the offense, we have the Astros hitting 274 with an 813 OPS. That's actually pretty solid, versus the Nationals, who are hitting 237 with a 729 OPS. So the pitching in game number 7 goes to Max Scherzer and the Nationals, and the Astros, they will be tying it up. Their offense clearly better in terms of the stats, and honestly, going forward, I think they have an advantage as well against Scherzer. But Scherzer, so I don't know what's going to happen. But just for the sake of the video, I will be giving the advantage to the Astros in terms of offense, because this makes it that much more exciting. Now we are coming to the relief game if it does get there, because Greinke and Scherzer, they've shown in the regular season that they can go the distance. They can throw 6, 7, 8 innings, but this is game 7. If you cannot get it done, you let your manager know so they can get Patrick Corbin or Garrett Cole warming up, because even if you're a starting pitcher and you threw 100 pitches 2 days ago, nope. Madison Bumgarner showed that even on 2 or 3 days rest, you can do it. The Nationals will be armed with Anibal Sanchez, Patrick Corbin, and Sean Doolittle, but I do think that Sanchez and Patrick Corbin will actually see some relief innings before Doolittle, and the rest of their bullpen has actually been a little bit shaky. Rainey's been bad. I think Mr. what's his name? Hudson has a 12 ERA, and the rest of the Nats relief guys, they have not been that great. So they are going to have to rely heavily on their starting pitchers and Doolittle, who has not given up a earned run this entire World Series. So yes, the Nationals are in a good spot, but if we're comparing them to the Astros, who have Will Harris, who has not given up a run. They have Jose Urquidy. That's the first time I heard that name when he started game number 4 or 5. Again, it's kind of jumbled up in my head. I did not write that down. But you have Jose, you have Will Harris, Joe Smith has been pretty decent, and then Roberto Osuna. As much as you might hate the guy, I'm with you on that as well. He's really good at baseball. He can shut some innings down. Maybe you get Garrett Cole with a Madison Bumgarner-like performance, but if we're using Anibal Sanchez, Patrick Corbin, Daniel Hudson was clutch, and then Sean Doolittle, who has not given up a run, in my opinion, when you compare that to the Astros, I think the Nationals have the better relief system. And I'm going to add a little bit of context as to why I am giving the advantage to the Nationals, and that's because I think that Max Scherzer, that cortisone shot, that is going to give him new life. I don't think that he is going to be in as much pain as we all think. I think he's going to go 7 to 8 innings. So when you have 7 to 8 innings of Scherzer, and then you have Doolittle and Hudson, again, I know Hudson has been a little bit shaky, but he's been dominant for the majority of the postseason with the likes of Patrick Corbin and Anibal Sanchez ready to go. I think that does beat Will Harris, Roberto Osuna, and all of the other plethora of relief pitchers, because if we're being honest with ourselves, Cole and Verlander, they gave their all. I do not think that they will be making an appearance in game number 7. So what does that leave us? I predicted before this series started that the Nationals would win in 7 games. So if the Nationals have the pitching advantage as well as the relief advantage, I do think that they are going to come out on top. So let me know in the comment section down below. Am I right in saying that? Am I wrong in saying that? Do you guys not know, because this series has been so highly contested? Thank you all so much for watching. What a wonderful Major League Baseball season. We're here, the final game of 2019. Thank you all so much for everything. You've truly changed my life. Big things coming up, by the way. Can't tell you what, but big things. Thank you all so much for watching, and enjoy game 7.